So today is a rainy day. Our question is, what do you like to do on a rainy day?
On a rainy day. Curl up with a good book.
Curl up with a good book. Wow. Yeah.
That episode
Take a
from that episode from The Office where they all take a poll on like what Phyllis is going to say for the rainy day.
But everybody's been so nice to me.
It's raining cats and dogs out there. No, man. Oh, gosh. Sing Rain, Rain, Go Away.
Yeah.
Or Mo.
Or Mo. Wow. Yeah.
I was like, what?
I mean,
Wow. Okay.
No,
Let's
I'm
get the
just
thing.
I'm living out what the reality is right now. This
Yeah.
weekend, I have to mow. So,
Yep.
man, what do I do? I mean, video games is one, but I don't always have power. So, board games. Board games is a
games,
big
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I'd say video games too, but I'm Amish.
Yeah. He came in on a
Shout
horse
out
today.
to the Amish, bro.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Great furniture. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think for me, I love the rainy day when like you can't go outside. Like so, all the outside obligations like mowing and stuff like that are canceled. So you're like, let's all sit around on the couch and watch a good movie, and having the kids or whatever, and throwing up hey, today we're not going to just watch one, we're going to watch a trilogy.
He's over here like, guys,
the
guess
whole
what we
day,
get to
yeah.
do today? Remember that Zack Schneider 4-hour version
Right.
of
My
We're
wife's
watching it with
"No."
commentary.
yeah,
With commentary.
in black and white?
Yeah.
In black.
Yeah. Rainy day. If it is cold and rainy, I like to get a fire going, a cup of coffee. If it is hot, like it usually is here when it's raining,
Swamp.
then I'll just go with a cup of coffee and chill.
Not even a cold cup of coffee?
No, like I'm still good with a hot cup of coffee. I just don't want to sit by a fire.
Man, I can't do that.
No, and just kind of watch the rain. Sometimes with a book, sometimes with a movie. But the cup of coffee is not optional.
What about Clue?
Clue? Like the game or the
game
the
Clue.
movie?
No,
Both at the same
game. There you
time.
go.
God.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
I'm good with it.
I
Yeah.
mean, thunderstorm going. You gotta have like a
Yeah,
Bro.
Little board games. Yeah, we do board games. We homeschool though, so like we even when it's raining, our kids are like at home doing school, and so like
Nice.
we'll just be chill. Yeah,
Man, I think, Lee, you said it a second ago, the nap thing.
nice nap.
As I'm older,
Dude,
that's
yeah.
that's the reality.
You just
Yeah.
hear the little pitter
All
patter.
right, here we
Don't
go.
sleep during the day.
And welcome to the podcast.
And there we go.
From the days of papyrus and ancient scrolls to paperbacks and now ebooks, the written word has been essential to the development of civilization. Today, we discuss books.
Dun, dun, dun.
There you go.
Book it.
Oh,
All right.
man.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Oh no, let's discuss it.
let's discuss
discuss it.
Yeah, let's discuss it.
Let's discuss
Yeah.
books.
Books. The things that I avoided for most of my life.
Man.
Actually, I saw recently there's a stat that says, is it 52% of men after whatever education they've gotten will not read another book.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think it's like 52%
Dude,
of men will not read another book.
I definitely
after
live up to
their education has
And
ended.
those are voters.
Yeah. And I mean that includes lawyers and doctors.
Oh,
like
wow.
I mean it's a big thing, right? So I think we're all pretty open. We're people of the Bible. We
Yep.
love God. We love God's word. So
Indeed.
aside from the Bible,
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
what is the most important book in your life?
Goodness gracious, man.
Well, first I got to
Good
go
question.
back to like that whole stat versus like,
Sure.
like what
Yeah.
you said, you're living up to that and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't read a whole lot. I try, and part of the reason why is because I struggle in the reading department.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm,
Yeah.
like I know some people they're fast, they can read real quick, they
Mm-hmm.
retain real fast. I'm the kind of person that like things get a little shaky on the screen and
Same.
or the paper, and
Same,
so I've
man.
got to read it several times in order to retain that. And, call me what you will or what you will. I don't care. That's just what works with me.
It's because you're bald.
It's there it is. That's right.
I'm sorry. No,
So I've always been around people who are like, oh man, did you read that book? Did you read that book? Or that book's come out? Or this? And I'm like, no.
Do people really say that?
They do.
Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah,
I went through a season. I went through a season like I was surrounded by people that were just like hungry for growth, and so it was constantly digging and searching and looking for. I mean, still around folks like that, and I took some good suggestions on some books to read, and when I was pastoring, I felt like I was always looking for something, not the next thing, but something to help sharpen my understanding, deeper, and of course the word, God's word is enough, but to find someone who has biblically worked through that, and contextually properly, the whole 9 yards, and then go, man, I want to sit under that and just understand it. I think it goes back to that having to read multiple times. So like a book, like books for me were that I really liked outside of the Bible were they came from a ministry called 9 Marks.
Okay.
And the idea was 9 marks for a healthy church.
Okay.
And it was not bite-sized information, but it was, instead of giving you this ginormous, here, hold this big stack of information, it was packaged in a way that's like you could just hand this book to somebody and they're like, hey man, let's go through this together, and it's chock full of the truth and helping people understand deeper things, everything from discipleship to elders in the church to expositional preaching and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of books that I enjoyed because they would challenge me and grow me. But if I had to choose a book that I have read that that just grabbed me, that it was
Your Best Life. No.
no.
Best foot forward.
It's a book called Fearless. It's about Adam Brown, who was a Navy SEAL. He was part of SEAL Team 6, and he was killed in action right before, pretty soon before they got Bin Laden. So he's part of the team that ultimately got him, but he was. So it walks through his life, and he had a lot of struggles, but he was a man of faith as well. So just reading about somebody who had an immense amount of struggles and addictions, and but ultimately found hope in Christ, but yet and also laid it all down. It was one of those, because that he dies, that he does, and it's one of those.
Spoiler alert.
I know, right? But it's one of those books that you read that you don't want the end to end like it's going to. It's kind of like watching the Titanic, going, I don't want this boat to sink. It's like you don't want this end to come.
Yeah.
So you're not emotionally ready, but you're building up to that moment. But to know that was a true life.
Now, the word that keeps coming to my mind is documentary, because it's for movies. Is biography the right one for a book that's similar to a documentary on someone's life?
Yes.
Biography.
Yeah.
So is that this book was a biography?
It would be a biography.
Okay.
Yeah, someone else wrote it about him. Yeah.
And if you write it about yourself, it's
autobiography.
Autobiography. Yeah, I knew that one. I just wasn't sure for sure.
So
Octo.
before that, and not to hijack most of this moment. Before that, I think about Switchfoot, their Legends of 10 album that came out back in the 90s. Kim 6A, that song was one of the lines is, I don't want to read the book, I'll watch the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, when it comes to books, that's typically where I go though. Outside of what few things that I mentioned.
I feel the same way. Yeah. I'm like polar opposite of like the books that I remember and stuck with me were actually from most of like my childhood, high school, even college. I've read a few books since then for like the job, like you were mentioning ministry stuff. I've read ministry books. I get some stuff out of them, but they're not enjoyable necessarily for me to read. But I don't like reading in general because, similar to you, I find myself having to reread a line 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
Because I'm so ADHD that my brain has shifted for something else. So it's not enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Like audiobooks, all day. Podcasts, all day.
Yeah.
Auditory, I can do that and listen and retain things, especially if I'm following along too. Helps me a lot.
Right.
So that's been a problem. But one of the earliest books I remember reading that was like a chapter book, which I was so proud, was this book called Bud Not Buddy. I wrote down the author's name just in case somebody cares, Christopher Paul Curtis. But I was really young, and I came home with like one of my first chapter books, and it was called Bud Not Buddy, and I really loved that book, and it still is. I still own it to this day. Like I bought it from the book fair after renting it from the library because it just hit me so hard about this young kid that's an orphan, and he wants to find his dad because there's this picture that shows his dad was like in a jazz band that was really famous and stuff. And he's like, I want to find my dad. So he just travels the country, hitchhiking and doing stuff. And there's like this really cool like twist at the end that doesn't end quite the way you think it would. And it's always stuck with me. So I've really loved that one. Not to mention it was one of those moments that I conquered something as a kid, getting over like a lot of people said I had disability like dyslexia or something like that. So getting through a whole book and fully understanding it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then of course you get to, I think it was like junior high for me when J.K. Rowling came out with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time it dropped and it took a little bit to gain traction, but then when it did, it just blew up and everybody wanted to read those books.
Right.
And then my school had one of those competitions back, they used to do this a lot. So I don't know if they do it anymore, but
Like an AR reader thing.
yeah. So you can earn points based on the size of the book, how long it was, the difficulty of the read, that kind of stuff. And then you get points for every book you finish within that semester, and they had prizes. Well, they had a PlayStation 2 journal style for one of the top prizes, and I wanted that thing really bad. So I did some research and figured out which were the biggest books in our library, which ended up being like Narnia and like Harry Potter and those kind of things. And so those are what I read. But Harry Potter stuck with me, and I feel bad because I've only read the first 3 books, and I own all of them. I just haven't gotten to them because,
That makes you feel bad.
It does, because I really enjoy them, and I love the movies too. Like I really enjoy those books, and I know not everybody agrees. As we were talking about ministry books and stuff, some people have like, "Hey, I don't do that."
Yeah, on his shelf he has Harry Potter, and then the Bible.
Francis,
Francis Chan.
yeah. Speaking of Francis Chan, that was going to be my third book I was going to mention. Is notable is Crazy Love.
Crazy Love, yeah.
I got that in high school, and that shifted my thinking of my relationship with Jesus and people. So
yeah, he told me not to buy that book.
Really?
Yeah, I ran into him at a conference, and he walked up behind me. He's like, "Don't waste your money on that book." Like, that's awesome.
So the author of the book told you not to mess with it.
He's like that though. He doesn't.
He is.
He literally always says like, "And don't listen to anything I say."
That's right.
No, it was a good book.
Which makes me want to listen to what he has to say.
All right, there you go.
Anyway,
It's a funny guy.
yeah.
I guess for me, the book that I've read over and over and over again,
The Hobbit.
The Complete Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. Yeah,
dude.
I mean,
about
I'll
that
go back to that. I can go back to it again and again and again. So
Something you'll
That's a
never
good
hear
one,
me
yeah.
say outside of reading the Bible, a book that I'll read over
Go
and over
back
multiple
to-
times.
I don't know.
Movie all day long, yes, but
Yeah.
a book that I've gone back to,
It's because we have to struggle to get
that's it. That's it.
I went through the Harry Potter series, I think 3 times. Yeah.
Man, I'm
Wow.
wow.
envious.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So yeah.
No, I guess I haven't answered.
No, haven't.
Do
no,
it.
I haven't.
Do it.
Okay, so most important book. I'm going to give 2 for different reasons. Most important, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes.
Ooh,
It's a
sounds
great. It's Kenneth E. Bailey.
Okay.
Great book based off of like he spent most of his time in the Middle East, looking at Christianity from the Eastern culture. It's not
That's
a
cool.
Western thing.
Where it came from?
Like he's got great insight from that culture, from the people there. He uses a lot of Arab sources. It's just a really great book and really deep insights into some of the Gospels. The other book I'll put in here, just most important book, Plum Island, Nelson DeMille. I know, weird book.
I've never heard of it.
Me either.
A lot of his books have gotten turned into movies. The reason it's important is that is the first book that I ever read that I didn't have to read. So I was in high school, and it's a thick book. It's a long book. It's a murder mystery kind of thing. But yeah, it was the first book. Somebody gave me the book. I read it. I really enjoyed it. But again, it was the first one that I had ever read, and I didn't have to for school. Like I had read books all the time for school. But yeah, so that would be an important one for me.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So top 3 favorite authors.
Favorite authors?
Matthew, Peter, John.
Matthew.
There you go.
That doesn't count. I forgot. Sorry. That's too easy. It's a toss-up, man.
I've got 4: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
Figured you're gonna. Yeah.
I have. But was
If anybody
Mark,
doesn't
was
know,
Mark
that's
an
a
author,
Bible
or
joke.
did he just write for Peter?
Yeah.
I'll go.
There-
the
there's that.
author of Hebrews.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Yeah, the one we know.
Nobody knows.
It's like the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Man.
All right, I can start us off if
Do
you
it.
want. I've
Sure.
got
Yeah,
my
man.
list. Yeah, so let's say top authors. Religious. I'm gonna go with Kenneth Bailey. I just brought him up. He's one of my top authors. He's got multiple books out there. He has since passed away, but all of his stuff I've really enjoyed. So I put him at the top of my religious kind of category.
Okay.
Fantasy. Patrick Rothfuss. The Kingslayer series. He's got a series of books. The first one is The Name of the Wind. It's just a fun fantasy. Guys in a bar, and he's telling the story, and so you're kind of hearing it as he's telling the story. It's just a really fun fantasy. The second book, it's a little weird, but it's still really good. And the third book, everybody's waiting to come out. But yeah, it's a great series. I enjoyed that one. And that was a recommendation from a student that came and said, hey, you got to try the series. Loved it. Went through those. And then just for straight storytelling, Stephen King. There was one year where I decided I was going to read the Dark Tower series.
Oh, wow.
The Gunslinger series. And it's 4,250 pages for the entire series. It's 8 books, and that's not counting if you read all the extra, like he made a multiverse out of all his books, right? And
Right.
it all ties in the Dark Tower series. So, I didn't go into all of those. I read some of them. But those 8 books, like it took me a year to make it through those books. But yeah, it is just one. It's amazing, like how he puts that story together. Obviously, Stephen King had some weird, drugged out years, and so there's some of that stuff in some of the books. But like the starting line for the series, I think is one of the greatest lines ever written. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed, and that sums up the entire Dark
I've
Tower
heard that.
series.
Yeah.
Like it's so perfect. Like as you read it, it always comes back to that. Like
English professor in college. That was one of the things they brought up because it was like, how do you grip an audience with the first line in your book?
Yeah.
And that was one of the first ones that popped up.
If you read the series, you realize how good that line is.
Yeah.
It starts that way, it ends that way, and the whole series is about it. Like it's amazing that, and it's just like dropped out there in the beginning.
That's cool.
So yeah, those.
Now
So
I
there's
don't
my
need-
big
I don't
3.
need to read those 4,000 words.
Yeah, you don't. Like
Whatever.
that's it. And that's
all
one of
you
those
need to know.
series. At the end, he tells you don't finish the series.
Oh.
He breaks into the story as the author, and he says, "I suggest you stop reading here. Don't finish the series, because
What?
I'll
That's
give."
crazy.
He says, "I'll give you an ending, but it's better if you leave it unended."
Oh, interesting.
And so you have the choice to finish the series or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure.
Kind of.
Those
It's
are
just
some
that
good
last
books.
chapter.
Man, that's crazy.
But you've got to read through the whole thing to get to that last chapter to decide if you're going to check it out or not. So
Interesting.
yeah. Anyway,
I like that.
that's my 3.
Cool.
It's nuts.
Eric.
Man, I have so many books that I've read and authors. No, I guess like
Just 3.
You can't steal
I
mine.
know Ray Bradbury, because he wrote
Oh,
one of my favorite books that we had to read in high school, which was Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only book that we ever had to read in high school that I couldn't put down. Like as you know how it is, where your teacher says read this many pages before the next class.
Dude, so
I
many
couldn't
people
stop.
bring up that book, and I've never read it.
Oh my gosh!
I probably need to.
you do.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that one, I like Tim Keller. He's man, he's got some great insights. Kind of going on the religious side of books and stuff like that. He's got some good commentary, but also some good studies on specific things, everything from marriage to pop culture. But and what else? The other book that I read has to do with like personality types and how they mesh well together, and even how that works in the workplace. And it was The Flip Side by Flip Flippin'. It's worth a read. It was one of those things where it talks about like you get to figure out what kind of personality you have, and he talks about this is what that looks like healthy, and this is what that looks like unhealthy. And so as you're reading, you're going, yeah, that's me, or oh, that's so and so, or oh. But he just talks about how he uses those principles whenever he talks to businesses, and he travels all over the world to talk to businesses and challenge them. So that was a really good book. That was encouraging to me. That as far as like helping me understand certain things about how I work and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I'm similar. I haven't read like a ton, but the top ones that I have read, and again, most of these series I haven't ever finished, much like Harry Potter. I'll start and read like the first 3. But C.S. Lewis was a big one for me as a kid. I love the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, yeah.
I've read a lot of them. There's a few that I missed because they did not have them in the library. And honestly, I've just never. There's so many that I forgot what the titles were. Like I can't remember if it was the Silver Chair or whatever that I missed. But I did read the last one where they go up the waterfall and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. I can't remember what it's called, but
The Last Battle.
The Last Battle. Yeah, I love that one. I know I read, at least the first 3 too. But I love C.S. Lewis. That was awesome because my imagination was wild when I was a kid. Which brings me into Tolkien, of course. I love Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is the one I've read the most.
Right.
That is one of the only books I have gone back. I think I've read it 3 times. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Not to mention my mom at the time got me the coolest version of it. It looked like an old, worn down like leather book that was like lost for decades or like centuries and found.
Yeah.
All the pages were like really old and like tattered, but it was made like that, so it held up. And it had beautiful like scribe writing. Like every page, the first letter was like ornate,
Yeah.
So I loved it. It had little pictures and maps and stuff. So I read that one a lot. It was a cool experience. And then I know you said 3. I actually had a hard time finding a third one.
What about like comic books? Do you have a certain comic book that you like to follow or something?
Yeah, but it's artists. See,
Oh,
I don't
okay. So
I don't
it's
think about the
artist,
writer.
yeah,
I think
sure.
like Alex Ross is one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
So anything he's done, I've looked at comic books from him, collected stuff like that. But I will do a shout out because even though I haven't finished all the series, again, like all the books I've ever read, never finished. But our old pastor, Mark Swirsky, did a series, The Chronicles of Alteron.
Yeah.
And what I have read is it literally is like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien mixed together, but in
good
his
stuff.
voice. So if anybody hasn't read those, you can find them on
check
Amazon
them
and
out.
stuff. They're awesome. He's got like hardbacks and digital versions and stuff. But Chronicles of Alteron, he's actually starting a new series now too that he's coming out with. I think it's the prequels to these. It's like 5 books already.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. And I love the dude, so I know the rest of the books are awesome. And
We don't have a coupon code, so I'm sorry.
no, I can't help you out.
Like,
His kids did the artwork for the books and everything.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Super cool.
My 3. Of course, I'll go with Stephen Lawhead first. Stephen Lawhead has changed. He changed my life with his books. They were so good. The Pendragon Cycle. Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff.
I mean, you said changed your life. So now I feel like compelled. I have to check these out.
I don't know how they haven't been made movies yet. Another really good Christian author, James Byron Huggins. He wrote some fiction books that are just action-packed, just really cool. You can see the movie in your head as you're reading it, which is awesome. And then, I mean, there's a toss-up. C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and then, of course, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah. Those are mine.
That's awesome. Yeah. I figured everybody was going to say C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. Then I was like, I was going to be the odd man out. That,
I like C.S. Lewis, but I can't read his stuff like for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. So like I can
Small
only do
doses.
little bits. I've never actually made it through the whole
Narnia series.
Narnia series. Yeah. It just didn't capture me in the way it captured a lot of people. I've read parts of it for like talks and stuff.
It captured me because I watched the movies first.
Oh yeah.
I was a kid.
What
like,
movies
I
that
was
were
very
available,
young.
yeah.
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 So yeah, that's just one. So a lot of times we like to talk about, how do these topics affect our culture? Well, how have books changed in our culture? How about that? What do you think?
Yeah.
Changed in our culture.
Man, one of the things that's like I was just talking about how I have trouble reading, attention span, all that kind of stuff. And then sometimes writing. I'm not the best with grammar. Like I did really well in all my English classes, but grammar has always been a very difficult subject for me to implement correctly. So things like Grammarly and all that has been awesome on the
lifesaver.
computers, right? Chat GTP or GPT. New AI stuff. So like I know it's like books, but books have become more than just paperback or hardback. Like it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
We've got books that you can just scroll on your phone and read, and you've got Kindles, all this stuff. And there are things now that have made my life easier when I want to read or partake in something. Now sometimes I can't because they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Like an audiobook of Harry Potter is just. It's so expensive.
What you do is you pay for 1 month, 1 month of Audible, and then you get your 3 credits, and then you get those books, and then you cancel Audible. We're
guys
never
are
getting sponsored by Audible.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, we just got
There you
nixed
Read
by
your
Audible.
books, and then
That's amazing.
That reminds me of BMG back in the day.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's how it's influenced. At least the culture around
Yeah.
me is having the ability to just jump into a digital version, an audio version. Like there's so much out there I can do. One of the things that is also really amazing is this paper likeness on screens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because because everybody's like, oh, just do it on your iPad. It's so easy. Man, it hurt my eyes so bad.
Yeah.
So then when they got the Kindle, and especially the little ones that were like, $40,
Yeah.
and I was able to get that, and I have like, a few books on there that I read for different things in college, and it was so awesome. So
Yeah, that's nice. What do you guys got? What do you think? How have books changed in our culture?
Well, I would agree with Raymond's. It's all digital now.
Yeah.
And the days of killing trees just to, entertain people.
yeah,
I mean, it still happens, but it's so much less now. Like I was looking up one of my authors, James Byron Huggins, and all of his books are available on Audible, and they're all free. If you have an Audible subscription,
that's cool.
His like top 4 books are right there for free, and you can download them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome.
Also, Hulu, not Hulu. Hoopla.
Hoopla, yeah, I have heard.
Hoopla,
Yeah.
if you have a library account.
I did hear about that.
They have quite a few they don't have like as many as Audible, but you can check them out just like the library.
That's sad
And,
because how we've been talking about we don't read, right? I don't even have a library card.
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
I was just excited when the library started having DVDs.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like, oh,
I'm just gonna chalk it up to these guys. They were doing like an episode on books, and I just can't.
I want to read more. I think it comes down to time, and of course, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, so we can make all of the excuses that we want, right?
Yeah.
It does come down to time and desire for sure. I do want to read because I had a friend one day say, like leaders are readers, and I know that sounds cheesy, but it's like.
Somebody said that to you?
Yeah, they did.
I hear that all the time.
I shouldn't have been
Every
in
leadership thing
ever.
I do, that comes up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like I want to challenge myself. I want to read more. I also understand that will broaden some understanding. I don't want to be stagnant. I want to learn. I want to continually be a learner, I guess, for lack of better words. I remember one time I had some friends that went to Howard Payne University, and the dean of the school, I think he was in his 80s, they call him Prof. He started teaching again, and they saw his light in his study like till the early way late in the night, early in the AMs, and like, what are you doing? Like, you could just get up and teach any class from the reservoir of knowledge in your mind. And he's like, man, I want my students to drink from a flowing stream, not a stagnant pond.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for a man who is as well studied as him, to recognize that and to want to be a learner as well, or teachable as well. And, I heard someone say, again, you show me someone that's not teachable, I'll show you someone that's not growing in their walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
And, something you can't necessarily find in Scripture, but like you'd be hard pressed not, to prove that wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a discipline.
True.
It's a discipline,
So
right?
I know I need to read, and there's some things that I know every now and again I'll have that. I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to read 3 books this year.
I try to do, like, every year I try to learn something. Like that year I try to spend learning something. There was one year where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do books, right? And I said books count. I can do like a hardback copy, whatever, paper copy, or Audible, whatever. Just start to finish books. That year I did 80 books.
Whoa.
It's incredible.
And that was not the Dark Tower series year.
That's more than I've read in my entire life.
80 books. But
I was about to say the same thing.
That was Audible, and then having books. Like if I have a paper copy, I'll keep a paper copy for study. Like if I want to make marks or things,
Right.
I have a Kindle, so I'll read stuff on a Kindle. Or if it's just like a straight up like fun book, sometimes I'll put it on and put it like 2x speed and just go through the story. And I've done that for so long. And if I put it on one, I feel like that scene from Monsters University where they're like all in line. And I have kids, so they're all like in line in one, like they take one step and they all take a step. And then Sully's in the back. He's like,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it drives me crazy. So when I listen
So slow.
at normal speed to things,
Yeah.
I feel like they're talking like this.
Oh, gosh.
And, like, I can't.
Just everybody quit the podcast right
yeah,
now.
Like, it just-
Unsubscribe.
It kills me. It
We just tell everybody, you're gonna need to put this on
like,
2 times.
Put it on 2 times, and it'll just be normal speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so that's how I digest a lot of the content. Like I'll do Audible when I have time. When just listening, if it's something I really want to study in, I'll get a paperback and I'll mark it up and I'll keep it, and then I can go back to it and grab notes and stuff. So that that's how I like. It sounds like some of y'all do Audible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
Same.
Yeah.
I just found a new hero.
Oh man, it was our librarian, our children's librarian here in town. She had one year where she did it was like 1,600 books. And she has a list, and some of those were comics, some of them were like graphic novels, but
It
then
counts.
some of them were like full novels. I mean, those are like ridiculous, and she did it every year. Like,
Is she married?
Yeah.
she
I mean, I read through
No,
the
I
Dark.
don't know.
Those are some lonely nights.
One of the
I don't know.
largest
Yeah.
selling graphic novels, The Dark Knight. I mean,
Yeah.
I've read that. It's
it's
good
a full thing.
literature.
So,
Like, it's good stuff.
but you don't start there, right? Like
No.
you start low and then you start working up.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Start with
but
Archie.
Yeah.
Archie back in the day.
Yeah.
So I
We're
think
done.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about the books is that they're not going to go away. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to pick one up and start somewhere, like you said.
Yeah.
Start small, start growing. So if anybody out there is like me and Eric and you struggle in reading, that's something we want to do too. So start small and grow. It takes discipline, but it's worth it because there's some cool stuff. I think back on the things I read in school. I actually read a lot. It was amazing. Or you could be like these guys and pump out 80 books in a year. I don't know how they do it, but thank you so much for joining us for another 4THOUGHT podcast episode. We hope to see you next time. Be sure to leave some comments. Just let us know what books are your favorite books. What books did we not mention that you think we need to check out? Like me, I haven't read in a while. What should I be reading right now? But we'll see you next time on the 4THOUGHT podcast. Peace out.